Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
To the brightness within you, and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hello and welcome to MindShifters Radio. I am Carol, and I am here working the switchboard for Dr. Michael Ryce, and he will not be with you today. Dr. Tim Hayes will be with you. Dr. Tim, if you can hear me, please hang on. My internet is running extremely slow, and I've been having a very hard time getting into the studio this morning. So I'm hoping that this will change in just a moment, but I've been working on this for quite a while, so just hang on. So if you'd like to find out more information as we're waiting for this to clear up for me to bring on Dr. Tim, please go to whyagain.com. You can download any of the worksheets Dr. Michael Ryce has, and also the book is on there as well, Why Again? Why is this happening to me again? And you can go to www.whyagain.com and download any of this information to help guide you on your journey. Because what this does is forgiveness helps you build a truly strong foundation, helps to set you free on a lot of different levels to healing and to becoming who your true authentic self, which you're truly your true self. As a newborn baby, as Dr. Michael Ryce and Dr. Tim explains, if you want to know what life is truly meant to be, definitely the newborn baby. So, Dr. Tim, I'm still working on this. It seems like it's starting to speed up, but it's not giving me everything yet. So I am going to have him on here in just a moment. We are streaming live today on IPMNation.com, so you can go to them, check out all of their different hosts and radio. You can listen to us live there as well. So for some reason, I am not getting the full switchboard up to be able to pull up Dr. Tim Hayes. I'm looking to see what I can do here because my internet's back up, but the switchboard is not fully available, which is not giving me the option to pull up any callers at the moment or open up the chat room. So anyways, definitely go to their website. So we will get this cleared up, and they will be able to share with you all the information that you need on your journey, helping guide you on your journey on the forgiveness in the Aramaic language. The true meaning is to within yourself and to set yourself free of these feelings, these vibrations, these things that's holding you back in your life. And I don't understand why I'm not getting my full studio here to be able to pull him up. So let's see. Dr. Tim, let me see if I can figure out another option here for you as I work on this. Dr. Tim, if you do hear me, please call in at a different number. Call in at, and we'll start it again, 866-200-449, and let's see if we can get you the host and then I will work on this. So that number, if you heard me, is 866-200-4449.
Well, hello. It says it's reconnecting me, but I think this is the first time I've been on the air. My name is Tim Hayes, and I'm a psychologist in Crystal Lake, and I'm here on MindShifters Radio for Dr. Michael Ryce, and we're trying to promote tools for a better life. This process that Dr. Ryce talks about on his website is called the forgiveness process, and unlike the modern-day concept of forgiveness, which is to pardon someone, this is a process for undoing a false reality in your mind, any reality which leaves you feeling hostility or fear, and leaving your mind-body energy system in a space of love, which then improves the quality of life for everyone around you everywhere on the planet. I've lost track of how many days now we've been commemorating Memorial Day, and our process for commemorating Memorial Day is out of recognition for all the people on the planet who have been asked to go to war, to give their lives in war, to take a life in war, to bring back the suffering of physical, mental, and emotional injuries from war. This process of commemorating Memorial Day leaves us with the goal of removing one piece of anger or one piece of fear from our mind-body energy system each day. And as we do that, we remove those thoughts, those images, those energies from our mind-body energy system that leave us feeling any form of hostility or fear. We are working at removing the causes of war on our planet. The war within each of us, the war within our families, the war within our communities, the war within our nations. And the process for doing that is called forgiveness. It's an ancient art. It's an ancient tool. It was known thousands of years ago. It was taught in the time of Yeshua, the man that most people call Jesus. And a tool for practicing this process of forgiveness is available for free on Dr. Ryce's website at www.whyagain.com. And if you go to that webpage, on the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. When you click on that link, it takes you to a page where the first 4 links will give you all you need to get started using the forgiveness process to remove everything from your life, anything from your mind-body energy system that's less than the love that you're made of, the love that you were intended to hold and contain, and the love that you can extend everywhere in the world. So the first link is Chapter 24 from Dr. Ryce's book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that book is also available in its entirety for free download from the webpage. It's available for free because Dr. Ryce and his wife have committed to make these tools available to every mind and body on the planet. Whether people can pay for it or not is irrelevant. Although it does take money to live a life and maintain an extensive website the way they have, so if you have the money to order the book and get a hard copy, or it's a paperback, but to get the book itself, they would appreciate that. They also make available for free download all of their worksheets. So the next link on that page, the first one is the Chapter 24 from the book, which describes the worksheet process and how to fill it out and what it can do for you. The next link is a 7-step worksheet process. It's a PDF file. And the next 2 links are hour-long audio recordings of this web show. And the first one is a woman named Lynn who called in and did what Dr. Ryce is now calling probably the most powerful worksheet process he's seen in over 25 years of doing this work. And the next link is an hour-long audio of a gentleman named Richard who also called in to work on the process and gives an entirely different perspective. But it's also a very nice example of how the worksheet process can reveal to me how I'm the one causing my own discomfort. and then it gives me options to choose differently. So, the worksheet process is available for free. The book is available for free download. A number of other worksheets are available. All of the worksheets and the tools on this website, www.whyagain.com. All the tools on this website have the common goal of helping us dig into our unconscious, discover the seeds and the roots of anything that leaves us feeling less than love, any form of hostility or fear, and then canceling it, dismantling it, removing it from our mind-body energy system. This is what was called forgiveness. Not pardoning somebody else for doing something that we believe was wrong, but forgiveness as a tool to remove the realities in my mind that leave me feeling something less than love. Did I hear Carol on the line?
Yes, you do. I'm finally back. I'm working on getting the chat room. And I apologize to everyone. I'm not sure why all of this was happening, but I was thinking maybe I should do a worksheet on Blog Talk Radio.
Well, you won't be the first one who's ever done a worksheet on Blog Talk Radio. I'll guarantee you that.
Yeah, so
but
anyways, I do have the chat room open to let everyone know, and we do have, you are live, and we're back on the switchboard and back up. Everything's rolling again, so if anybody wants to call in, they could call in at 646-200-4169, and make sure you press 1 if they'd like to ask you a question.
Well, thank you, and thanks for all your efforts today getting this up and running. I know it hasn't been easy. Please just interrupt me if somebody calls in and raises a hand and wants to raise a question or make a comment. And I'll just get back to what we were talking about yesterday. Yesterday I was talking about the idea that any process, whether it's religious, scientific, philosophical, or cultural, any process that actually deals with the cause level and is accurate in describing how we work as human beings will be compatible with every other process that accurately describes how things work. So we don't need to get upset if we hear something in Dr. Ryce's teachings or the tools that he presents that clashes with something we thought or that we believed or that we were taught by someone that we respected. All we have to do is breathe, notice any upset that we create in ourselves about those differences in approach, remove the seeds of it from our own mind-body energy system, and then observe accurately what actually works. There is no investment from Dr. Ryce that people take his tool and give him credit. The only investment in his work is that we restore the condition of love to as many minds on the planet as possible. And from that and the extension of that love out from us to others, that we improve the quality of each individual life and the quality of the lives of people living in families and communities around the globe. And this is the work of a lot of people for a lot of years, including a man named Yeshua, who was raised in the culture that spoke the ancient Aramaic language, which is a language that describes energetically how things work. So it's not about religion, it's not about philosophy, it's not about who's right and who's wrong. It's truly only about discovering how we work as people, what we are capable of, and achieving more of it in terms of love and compassion, joy, and creativity. Did you have something, Carol?
No, not as yet. No. If anybody would like to ask any questions in the chat room, please do so as well, and I will get those to you.
Do you have the chat room up?
Yes, the chat room is up. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've tried to refresh several times, and it's still giving me a bit of a, oh, there it is. All right. So anyway, back to the idea that many people, when they learn these thoughts, these techniques, these tools will have parts of them that respond with irritation or fear or sadness or confusion. And what we offer for your consideration is that all of that is happening inside of you. If you feel fear at these ideas and concepts, if you feel frustration, if you feel threatened by anything that's being said, please breathe, do a worksheet, relax and calm yourself, look inside rather than outside, because it is not possible for anyone to cause you to feel anything. At one line in Dr. Michael Ryce's worksheet called the Reality Management Worksheet, one line of it reads, "The truth is, my reality is strictly internal, it's unique to me, and is created out of my own thoughts." So what this means is, the more I learn to study that sentence and observe it for myself and practice changing the focus of my awareness from outside of me to inside of me, the better I get at catching the early warning signs that I'm creating sadness, fear, anger, frustration, hurt, shame, guilt, blame. And the earlier I catch it, the easier it is for me to change the focus of my conscious awareness so I stop producing those negative emotional realities and I create an emotional reality that's more loving, accepting, compassionate, creative, and joyful. And again, at a fundamental level, I would offer for your consideration that it is simply not possible for two things that are accurately describing, two or more things that are accurately describing how the world works, how we work as people, and how our mind-body energy system works. It's not possible for those things to clash. So whatever is actually talking about the truth of how the mind-body energy system works and what we as human beings do will be completely compatible with everything else that's accurately describing the same system. Even if the words are different, the concepts are different, the procedures are different, they won't be at odds. They won't hurt each other. It'll be possible to pick up the tools that Dr. Ryce offers and apply them in your life, even if you're a born-again Christian, even if you're an Orthodox Jewish person, even if you're a Buddhist, even if you're a Muslim, even if you're an atheist. Because if it's accurately describing what is, it will not clash with anything else that's accurately describing what is. So then the question becomes, how do I know if it's accurately describing what is? Well, as we were talking about yesterday, ancient wisdom says you know by the fruits of your labor whether or not your labor is on target. You know by what it produces as a result in your life. So if as a result in your life you pick up a tool from any of the religions, any of the practices, and you end up feeling more loving towards everyone on the planet, more accepting towards yourself and everyone on the planet, more joyful and more creative, then this is a tool that's working. This is a tool that's actually helping. If you pick up any of those tools from any of those religions or psychology or philosophy practices or cultural practices, and you find that your life is more full of fear, or it stays with the same level of anger or frustration or blame or guilt or shame, that alone tells you, because the fruit of your labor there is a negative emotional experience, that what you thought was acting at the causal level isn't acting at the causal level. Here's another consideration. Many of us have been taught over the years to do things that provide a temporary relief. So we might eat a bunch of sugar or drink some alcohol or go out to the movies or go spend some money on things that we don't really need. And unfortunately, oftentimes spending money we don't even have. We just promise to pay it back later. And this might provide a temporary numbing or a temporary feeling of joy or relaxation. But if it soon fades, or if the next day we're faced again with the same frustrations, anger, bitterness, resentment, then we know that whatever we were doing the day before to try and make ourselves feel better was only operating at the effects level. It was only a temporary fix, providing or causing a temporary effect of a relief of stress or tension or negative emotions. If it's working at the cause level, it will have lasting benefits. Now, by the cause level, I mean something that's operating at the basic fundamental level that determines how my realities are created and how I'm able to be aware of my true nature, whatever that might be. An example that came to my mind was if I own a house and it has a basement, and almost every time it rains, I notice there are wet walls in the basement or puddles from the walls in the center of the room. Well, if I work at the effect level, I might go in and mop up the water and then decide to paint the walls with some kind of a moisture retardant coating, some rubberized plastic coating. So now I might have 3 or 4 times when it rains and no water collects in the basement. But after a while, eventually the rubberized coating starts to bubble up or the water breaks through. So then I might decide I might want to hire a professional to come in and sand it down and put another coat of paint and another primer and maybe put another false wall in. This is all at the level of effect. The cause level would be to look and say, well, now wait a minute, every time it rains, where is this water coming from? Maybe I notice that the house is supposed to be built so that the grade runs away from the house, but instead there's a slight grade toward the house. So water from the neighbors and water from the front and backyard is all rushing in toward the house. Maybe I notice that the gutter is supposed to be taking water away from the house, but there's a hole in the gutter, and so it's running right down the wall and collecting all of the rain that falls on the roof and pouring it into one spot on the far southeast corner of the house, and it's flooding that whole yard area and the whole wall around that side of the house. Well, to get it cause would then be to restructure the gutter system or the grading system, and now every time it rains, the water won't be collecting there. If I observe how my mind-body energy system works, and I think the cause of it is outside of me, I'll be like the person who just wants to keep mopping up the basement and hoping that it doesn't rain, rather than actually looking at the structure of the house and where the water is coming from and rerouting the water. If I believe other people make me angry, other people make me sad, confused, hurt, insulted, offended, then whenever I feel any of those emotions, my eyes, my ears will be tuned outside of me. And I'll be blaming other people, I'll be yelling at other people, or I'll be isolating myself from other people in an attempt to keep from feeling negative emotions. That's working at the level of effect. Working at the level of cause would be to look inside myself to observe from a whole different perspective how my system really works and to pick up some tools like the worksheet process that Dr. Ryce makes available and to actually
Dr.
try
Tim,
it out.
We do have someone that's holding that would like to ask a question. I think that what you just shared was just magnificent. I think that's a really good acknowledgement, that an example for people to understand. I think that was really great.
All right, thanks, and let's hear from our caller and what the question is.
It's area code 954. You're on the air with Dr. Tim.
Hello, Dr. Tim. How is my heart family? This is Nene Ortega.
Hello, Nene. Thanks for calling in. We're doing quite well.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yesterday I listened also to the example of the functions of the mind, and I was thrilled because that was one of my questions that I had in mind. I was perfectly explained with your example, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And then today I would like to refresh my information about the file folder effect.
Okay. You just want me to review the whole concept, or do you have a specific question?
No, the whole concept. Because I like your input because it shows with the examples, and they enrich where I'm going to talk. So the concept itself, I would like to hear that.
All right. Well, to begin with the file folder effect, we need to talk about how we are energy. As a human being, I'm energy. I'm sitting in a chair, which is really just made of energy. I'm looking at a wall in my office, which is really just energy. And all energy systems, as far as we know, the best of our knowledge to this point, all energy systems operate according to the law of resonance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the law of resonance states that when two or more energy systems have the same frequency or are tuned to the same frequency, when one of those has more energy than the others around it, it shares its energy with those that have less energy. Now, the simple example is if you have a set of tuning forks that are the 8 notes of the scale from A to G, and you pick out a middle C tuning fork and hold it up to this where there's A through G and another middle C tuning fork. If I tap one middle C tuning fork and hold it up to that row of other tuning forks, only one of them will begin to move and vibrate. And the one that will begin to move and vibrate is the one that's tuned to the same frequency.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tap my middle C tuning fork and hold it up to the A, and nothing will happen. To the D, nothing will happen. To the F, nothing will happen. But when I get to the C, the middle C tuning fork that hasn't been touched will begin to vibrate because it will pick up energy off of the vibrating middle C tuning fork. Well, just as that happens with tuning forks, in our minds we store information. Thoughts, images, memories, sights, sounds, and we store it in ways that we're just beginning to understand. But what we know so far is that these energies that we store within us seem to function along, as every other energy that we know, functions along according to the law of resonance. So, as I live my life, I'm here in America. I've had a lot of different exposures to the word bird. And all of those references to the word bird images that I liked, bird images that were scary, bird images that were ugly, my experiences of having a pet bird, my experiences of watching nature shows where they watched or they photographed raptors or whatever, all of these are in my file on bird.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say the word bird, everybody else who's ever had any contact with a creature with 2 legs and wings that flies has energy starting to resonate in their mind. There's a file folder on birds. Now, within that file folder, there might be a separate folder on eagles and a separate pocket on sparrows. But in general, when I say the word bird, it can loosely resonate with anything from an ostrich to the tiniest sparrow and everything in between. But the more I say the word bird as I'm talking to you, if you're hearing it accurately, the more energy it's adding to that file on birds in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So if I say the word bird 5 more times, you're going to have more and more associations to birds coming up from your past. And if I start mentioning different types of birds, you're likely to have more and more memories as I keep talking. Because what we're doing is we're adding energy to the set of memories you hold in your mind, experiences, thoughts, images related to birds. Now, when 2 or more energies like that, files in my mind, get stirred up at the same time, it creates a connection between them. Mm-hmm. So, if I say to you, eagle, it stirs up in your mind some kind of an image related to an eagle.
Yeah.
And let's say you've never heard about an eagle before and never seen an eagle, so what's going to do is it's going to stir up your file on I don't know. And what might that be? But if you've had experiences where you've seen an eagle and heard about eagles before, those images about eagles come to mind. Now, if in the next breath I say, I want to pair this file you have on eagles with something that's never been connected to eagles before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say, don't think about an elephant eagle. Well, now all of a sudden, there's this whole file in your brain related to elephants, and every image you've ever seen and stories you've read about elephants, these large animals with 4 legs and a small tail and a big trunk and floppy ears. And now it's connected to the file on eagle. And your brain is trying to do some kind of a connection. What does this mean? Is this an elephant-sized animal with wings and a beak? Or is it an eagle-sized animal with a long trunk and a little tail and floppy ears? So, an elephant eagle, now these two have been connected.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're resonating together, and they share now a connection within your mind. So, somewhere down the road, 6 months, a year from now, we meet, and we're talking, and I say, don't think about an elephant. The word that's going to pop into your mind is eagle. However faintly it gets resonated, it's going to be there. And if we keep talking about the elephant eagle and we draw some pictures mentally
mm-hmm.
about the size and the shape, and I start talking about what it really eats for food, because an eagle usually eats fish, but an elephant eats a lot of, vegetation, and so the elephant eagle, it has to have a balance of big leaves and small fish, and the more we do that, the more we're going to enrich by adding energy to the file folder on eagles and the file folder on elephants and the way they're connected. I don't have any option about this. I can say I have free will, but I can't stop the way the energy system works. I can't stop the way my mind makes connections. If I'm truly aware in the moment, I can use free will when I see these things get stimulated within me to choose to behave in a certain way. But the connection will always be there. So how is this relevant? Well, let's say that I'm out in the world as a young adult, and I'm looking for a partner I want to share my life with. I want a healthy relationship. I've heard about healthy relationships. I didn't have many in my family when I was growing up. My mom and dad fought a lot. They got divorced when I was young. My mom remarried. The guy she married wasn't very nice. My dad remarried. That didn't last long. So I've got this big pile of associations in my mind about relationships, and they're full of anger. They're full of disappointments, divorces, lots of money and lawyers, lots of conflict. But I like to watch movies where people live happily ever after. I like to read novels about healthy relationships. So I've got a much smaller file in my mind that I keep trying to pour things into. And it's full of the movies with happy endings and the novels where people have good relationships, or maybe the self-help books that talk about how to have a better relationship. And then I'm out in the world, and I meet somebody and I'm attracted to her, and then we get together, and in the early part of the relationship, it's pretty easy because she's putting forward her best qualities, and I'm putting forward my best qualities. Never mind, I don't really have them. I'm putting them out there anyway. And everything's fine because there's not much conflict. Sooner or later, as we start getting together to date or to live together or get married, sooner or later, something's going to happen where there's a conflict. And now it's like holding up the conflict tuning fork and tapping it on the table and holding it to my unconscious. In my unconscious, in my mind-body energy system, all of my experiences with relationship and conflict, my parents' divorce, my mom's divorce, my dad's 3 divorces, all of the yelling, that's this huge file. And then over in the corner, there's this little file that I keep putting stuff in, like, you know, the Disney movies and Snow White and Happily Ever After and a self-help book on how to have a happy relationship. And so I have this huge file that's getting the resonance of the conflict in my relationship, and I've got this tiny little file that's maybe as big as my hand that's got all of these stories in it about good relationships. The more there's a conflict in my relationship with my girlfriend or my wife, the more that tuning fork gets resonating, conflict, conflict, conflict. Which of these 2 files do you think is going to drive my behavior? The one that's as big as 3 city blocks, or the one that's as big as my hand?
No, the bigger one, the bigger the preponderant.
So what I need to do in this work is realize that all of those feelings that come from my past with my parents and those conflicts, it's not my parents doing that to me. It's not my wife or lover doing it to me in the moment. It's my memories that are getting resonated, just like the elephant eagle is getting resonated. Now they've been connected. And if I'm not careful, when I'm living with someone or dating someone and we have a conflict, if I'm not very, very careful about owning all of the upset that comes up in me, I will begin to pair my thoughts about this person that I say I love with all of that 3 city block ugly file on negative relationships. And if it gets paired often enough, if we can't resolve the conflict, and if I can't be clear about the fact that all of my anger and sadness and fear and confusion about relationships that I've stored over the years is in me, and that my lover or my wife or my partner is not causing it, then the association becomes stronger and stronger in my mind, and I believe that that person is causing me to feel all of this, and I believe that that person is stirring up everything that's negative about relationships, and sooner or later I'm going to have to get rid of her if I have any hope for a healthy relationship. So I'll get rid of her, and I'll temporarily feel better because there won't be any tuning fork on conflict stirring up all of my old baggage about conflict, and I'll go along with life, and I'll look for somebody else who's healthier. Mm-hmm. It won't be long before I find somebody, but it'll be even less time in my next relationship before there's some kind of conflict. And if I'm not very clear about how everything I feel is coming from my mind-body energy system, then when the conflict happens, the conflict tuning fork gets struck, and this old file folder on all of the conflict and relationship gets stirred up in my life, I will believe this person, my partner, my friend, my lover, my wife, is causing me to feel these things. And I'll reach the conclusion even more quickly this time that she's a bad match. She's not healthy. She's causing all of these painful feelings in me. And I'll get rid of her even more quickly than I did the first one.
Yes.
That's how we use, without understanding it, we use the file folder effect to blame other people for what gets stirred up in us and then throw them out of our lives. And what we offer for strong consideration and observation in this work is that the only way to move forward is to deal with the things at the level of cause. What's actually happening when I have conflict stirred up within me, and anger and fear and sadness and confusion resonating in my file folder from my history of my family's traumatic relationships? Is the person outside of me causing that? Or is it simply the law of resonance reminding me that I've got a lot of baggage, a lot of fear and sadness and conflict and frustration stored in my energy system that I've never dismantled and taken responsibility for? Mm-hmm. If I can understand how that works, take responsibility for it, pick up the tool of responsibility, pick up the tool of my ability to respond differently the next time that the conflict tuning fork gets hit in front of me, pick up the reality management worksheet and apply it to anything that I have in my mind that results in fear or sadness, confusion or blame, then I can step into a whole different experience of life. Does that help?
Extraordinary. Extraordinary. Yes, thank you very much. Lovely.
Well, don't think about an elephant eagle.
From now on.
Dr. Tim, I have a question on what you just shared. As you were talking about the relationships, that's a perfect example for a lot of people out there that they get in relationships, and sure enough, like you said, in the beginning it's all great, but then all of a sudden the tuning fork starts targeting and hitting some of the baggage that has to be cleaned up. So as you're working on this and you're conscious of it and you're doing this, how does people understand that maybe this relationship, they're staying in this relationship because they really want to make it work, and how do they know? How do they get to that point where it's like, you know what, this really isn't a healthy relationship for me? Because a lot of people, they stay in relationships that aren't healthy, and instead of moving, and because they're so afraid of moving on and being alone, that they'll continue to keep doing the work, and it still is not going to be a healthy relationship for them. How do they get to that point of deciding which way to go? Okay, that's an excellent question, and it comes up almost every time we talk about this. The first thing I want to say is, as a clinical psychologist, and I began as a probation officer, and so I've worked in a lot of very rough and violent and sad situations in families over the years. The first thing I tell people is safety first, and then the next thing I tell them is safety first, and then the next thing I tell them is safety first. So it doesn't matter what your philosophy is. It doesn't matter whether you think you should stay or leave or who you think is to blame. Nothing good can happen if people are getting hurt. So whatever you do, learn to keep yourself and those you love safe. Learn to defuse and back away from violent or aggressive situations. Once you've got that covered, several different schools of thought that I believe are all working along the same path. They're observing how things really work. They all say the guide is within you. And so I can stay in a situation, in a relationship, and have it be useful to me because it's stirring up pain and sadness and frustration and hurt and blame and shame and guilt. And when that happens, if I observe accurately how the world works and I pick up the tool of responsibility, then I get to clean up the pain and the sadness and the shame and the blame and guilt from my energy system. So in that situation, the relationship can be very useful. It can show me my pain that I've been hiding from myself for a long, long time. Right.
This doesn't mean that the relationship is a good relationship or a healthy relationship. It might have a lot for me to learn. It might teach me a lot if I have the proper awareness and the proper tools.
Right.
But it doesn't mean it's going to ever lead to a healthy, loving relationship.
Right.
Several different schools of thought all say this. if I leave a relationship because I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling offended, I'm feeling betrayed, I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling disrespected or offended, I'm leaving it for the wrong reasons. I've left valuable lessons on the table unlearned. If I do my inner work, yoga, breathing, tapping, Michael Ryce reality management worksheets, the Sedona forgiveness process, Ho'oponopono release work, it doesn't matter. If I do that work, eventually I'll get to the place where the person I'm in the relationship with will be doing the very same things that left me feeling hurt or offended or angry 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be doing the same things, and I will look at them and simply feel compassion for them and their pain.
Mm-hmm.
I won't have anger and hurt and upset coming up in me, and I'll be able to release them from my expectations and the relationship without attacking them, without cutting them off, without having to push them away. That's a very different place to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
but even then, when you do have the compassion and everything too, and it doesn't bring up anything in you, it still may be a point. You may come to a point where you do have to leave the relationship because you see that you and that other person aren't on the same page anymore.
Right, and you may. Guy Finley says it this way. He says, "Listen, you are not responsible for other people's emotions. You're not responsible."
The rest of the question in the chat room, too, is what if the other parties refuse to do any of the tools or refuses to take responsibility? So that's perfect.
You can't make them do that. So Guy Finley says it this way. He says he's got a list of false responsibilities. And one of them is, I'm responsible for what other people feel when I do this or I do that. That's just not true. You can't, for years I've had in one of my bottom line observations, I can't control or be responsible for the emotions or reactions of anybody else, no matter how hard I try. So, it says this, if you effectively, peacefully, accurately communicate to somebody what's acceptable and not acceptable to you. Let's say that you say to a very good friend or family member, I don't want to listen to off-color jokes. I don't want to listen to racist comments. I don't want to listen to watch pornographic movies or things that degrade women. I don't want to watch you arguing with or name-calling or swearing, me or anybody else. If you accurately communicate that to somebody and you work through all of the gunk that comes up in you when that happens, so you can see accurately that this is just somebody who's in pain, rather than seeing somebody who's attacking you, then you are not responsible for what they put themselves through when you release them from the relationship. This isn't you cutting them out. This isn't you attacking them. This isn't you slandering their name and telling everybody how horrible they are. This is you simply releasing them from the relationship because you don't want to live like that. You make the choice of the kind of world, relationships, environment you want to live in. Maury from Tuesdays with Maury in this book, he said, listen, if you live in a culture that doesn't leave you feeling good about yourself, you need to create your own culture.
Absolutely. We do have another caller, too. A couple of them, actually, that just
All right, we have
on.
5 minutes left, so let's see what we can get the first caller in.
But you're very right. One of the questions I always ask myself, and when I'm in relationship with anyone, and that's friends, family, or romantic, is do I like who I am being in relationship with this person? And if the answer is yes, and things still are not working, then I know that I have to move to a different direction. If the answer is no, then I know that I got to get to work. So, area code 941.
Hi, this is Marie. I know there's only 4 minutes left, and then you answered all my comments and questions. I'll be brief. Basically, what you're saying, Dr. Tim, is this. is two people come in together with the same unresolved baggages. When you refer to the file folder effect, it's basically the recipe for disaster unless the two people are willing and ready to do their own work. And if only one of the partner is ready to do its own work, then eventually the beauty of it is that that person will stop attracting this kind of energy to him or her. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would say the only thing I would add to what you're saying is when people are ready and willing to do the work and they've got the understanding of how the system works and effective tools. And Ho'oponopono and the Sedona release method and Dr. Ryce's work, these can all be very effective tools.
Correct. It's all of the above, right? It's not just like one recipe fits all. It's a combination of a multitude of things, and the forgiveness process is one of the core work that people needs to do to own the fact that their feelings are all internal.
Exactly. The idea that if I'm looking at the cause, I can make a change. If I'm dealing with the effect, I'll make a little change today. I'll have to make another change tomorrow and another change and another. And it'll be forever chasing after the effect until I reach into the cause. And the cause
that brings
of what
me
I'm
quickly to something that we learn about or we hear about affirmations and that they work. But to me, I have learned over time or observed over time that it's just like a temporary solution to the problem if you don't look at the cause.
Yes, if you have hidden in your unconscious negative beliefs about yourself or traumas and energy from traumas that isn't resolved, you can do all of the conscious level affirmations you want and it won't change what's stored in the unconscious because the unconscious is, at most estimates, more than 1 million times more powerful than the conscious. And so that's a part of the worksheet process to recognize that there is a power greater than my cognitive mind, my conscious mind, and I need help from that power, whether you want to call it your unconscious or God or the Holy Spirit or your higher power or spirit or the white light. You need help to clean out 1 million times more work than your conscious mind can clear out. And
wonderful. Thank you, Dr.
Of any effective tool.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Hi. Well, we do have another caller, but we don't have time. Unfortunately, we had some issues at the beginning, so I apologize that we're not going to be able to get to the other caller. You will be here with us tomorrow at the same time, 1 p.m.
And please call back tomorrow. Hopefully we'll start right on time, and we'll discuss questions and how to apply these tools to help create the best year yet of your eternal life. And please join us and bring a friend.
Blessings, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present that internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio.